Cavs fans, it's Spencer Squared live from Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. We're back together in person this time.
It's about
It's a good
time.
feeling. And it was also a good feeling inside Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse tonight as the Cavaliers pushed their win streak to 11 straight games, 11-0 to start the season. This incredible start continues. There were some tense moments where it seemed like it was not going to be the case, that we thought this could be their first opportunity to actually lose a game. And lo and behold, man, like this team doesn't quit. They found a way to eke it out, despite the fact that of the three of us who are part of this broadcast right now, one of us who is not on camera, Anthony Meglin behind the scenes, was the one who thought that it was over. He was texting us and saying he thought it was over, and they pulled it out at the end. He said it was the reverse jinx, though, so we'll give him credit for willing the Cavs to victory in some way, shape, or form.
Sounds a little bit like an excuse to me. I don't know, but we'll give it to him, Megs. Okay.
We'll give it to him. No, but no, honestly though, I mean, this game was awesome. Just like the fact that they did have sort of a high stress moment. It didn't seem like they were going to come away with the victory, and then they're able to just rally from at one point I think 14 points down in the third quarter, and found a way to just pull it out at the end. And you could tell like it meant something to them to get this win afterwards, because just the emotions on the court. There was a lot of like sort of like the pushing and shoving going on, guys getting each other's faces, hyping each other up. You could tell that there was some emotion attached to this one, and I thought that was a cool thing to see from a group. Like again, you're 11 games into the season, but they clearly are going out and playing with a little bit of pride in the fact that they have this streak and it's on the line each and every single night.
Well, I think one is they kind of steamrolled through a lot of the competition to this point.
Yeah.
I mean, they have faced adversity. They were down in both Bucks games.
They were down to the Knicks.
They were
like
down
13
in the
points.
Knicks in the New York game. So that part, yes, you could consider adversity. But this one, it really wasn't going their way. They were not making threes. They made one total three in the second half. Everything came in the paint. Everything had to come through a gritty mentality, getting defensive stops, ripping steals away, like Ty Jerome when they sent two at the ball. He was just getting the pace going. He was getting the kind of the energy, the flow. I know we're going to talk about that lineup to close the game, but this is just kind of a classic, another case of they're doing it in a different way with different guys. Again, they're showing their versatility lineup wise and their versatility and their depth on this team, that really anybody can get the job done with any guy on the roster, which that's deadly if you're a team right now. And Jordy Fernandez said before the game that they're playing like the best team in the NBA. And not only does the record show it, but on the floor, they're showing multiple ways to win and different circumstances where they're just able to kind of step up to the plate.
Dude, the offense is so hard to keep up with at times. Like you look down for a second and they're getting a steal and then taking it down for a transition bucket. And then you think that possession's done for a little bit and you have some time and you look down again and then they're getting another steal and turn it into a transition bucket. It's the same stuff like we've been saying in terms of the offense and the flow and all these different things.
I will say this though, in the third quarter, it was not like that.
Yeah.
The third quarter, it was the slowest we've seen them play. And credit to the net. They were picking up full court the whole game and finally got to the Cavs in that third quarter. They scored 13 points in that quarter. So that was the only time that I think we've seen them kind of struggle. The shots weren't falling. There was a little bit more ISO play and some of the pace kind of was dictated by Brooklyn. So credit to them. And Kenny Atkinson even said that too. But for the most part, yes, the offense, I would agree.
I thought that was a good strategy from Brooklyn too. Like second night of a back-to-back for the Cavs. Oh, yeah. Legs are tired. They're a team that likes to run. We know their pace is up massively from last year. And to do the full court press and sort of slow them down and make life hard for them, it's a good strategy when you're coming into the second night of a back-to-back to try to slow things down and make them play at your pace. I mean, Cavs only scored 105 points tonight. That's their lowest point total of the season. There was some moments there where it looked like they weren't even going to get to 100 points, and they finally kind of cracked it at the very end, which would be just shocking because their low for the season was 110 points before that.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I mean, again, to your point, Brooklyn deserves a ton of credit, but so do the Cavs for their ability to answer that 13-point third quarter by putting up 35 in the fourth quarter, outscoring Brooklyn 35-18, and again pulling off this comeback win to extend the streak to 11. I thought it was interesting after the game, and I made a point in asking about this. Kenny Atkinson, I asked him, how much pride or how much motivation does the streak kind of play into you guys? And I said, when I laid out the question to him, it was like, listen, I get it. You guys are taking it one game at a time. You're not probably thinking too far ahead here, but like are you out there with understanding like the moment? Like, is it weighing on you at all? And he admitted, he flat out admitted, like very candid in his answer, like, yeah, you get some of those. It was a tense game down the stretch, and I'm kind of thinking to myself, like, I don't want to see it end this way. Like, I don't want this to be the way that it ends. And so they are kind of adding a little bit of pressure on themselves in a good way. I don't think it's not pressure in the sense of like
Right.
if they lose, it's doomsday and everything's gonna go to hell in a second. But like there was you can tell they care enough that they're trying to kind of extend this thing as long as they can. They're having some fun with it in that regard. And Darius Garland had a very similar comments where he said, it's definitely on my mind. I can't speak for all my teammates. But we know we're going to lose at some point, but our goal isn't just to go 82 or to go 82. No, our goal is to win a championship. So it's okay. But yeah, like while we're out there, we can definitely feel it in some of those spots. I thought it was great that they were candid with that.
Yes.
And I think it's cool that this streak, the fan base is having a lot of fun with it, as we see in our comments here during this feed on social media. But the fact that the players themselves are like really leaning into this idea of like, hey, let's see how far we can take this thing, I think is really cool too.
100%. And they've been so transparent with us this year, Spence. Like, it's
They really
insane.
have.
Like, you're so used to, as a media member, just kind of hearing coach speak and players speak when they don't really want to open up. Like, if you listen and you go to our YouTube channel where we are just kind of asking them these questions and they're pouring their hearts out, they're actually talking about how they feel, and you can tell how genuine and how sincere they are. Kenny Atkinson hasn't given us one kind of escape answer yet. Like, even pregame when he was talking
And we'll
about
see.
the
It'll be
Nets.
interesting to see like if that changes at all once they start losing games, if
Sure.
they hit a slump or something like that. But you're right. Like it's been a refreshing to get some of the answers from Kenny and the players that we've gotten this year.
They've been open and honest, and I think you told this to me before we started recording this, is that you think it's kind of a reflection on Kenny kind of coming down on the players to say, you know what, be genuine, have these open-ended answers, and be yourself, and give the people in the of Cleveland like kind of an inside look at what they're doing and what's going on with the offense. Like, for example, like something that really caught wind yesterday was my question about cuts. And it could just be as simple and like, yeah, cuts work, but no, Evan Mobley,
cuts work.
Evan Mobley goes into this thing and he talks about how they're using the slot, they're using the baseline, and how Darius Garland talking about how they go hand in hand with the spacing. It's not just people on the outside that are able to stretch the floor. It's constant movement and motion that kind of keeps defenses off balance. And I appreciate that as a media member, for them to giving me that look into the whole operation. But I'm sure the fans are just like, wow, it's awesome to hear this kind of stuff. But it's been this way the whole year, and then obviously the locker room shenanigans have been hysterical all year. There's not one moment where it's dull.
We've talked so much about how unselfish this team is, and when you hear those things in the locker room and you see how the players interacted with each other, it breeds and it speaks to just how tight knit this group really is, and how like what you're seeing on the floor is also just how they are as a team off the floor. It's translating, and it's leading to what we've seen so far, which is a team that's 11-0 to start the season. I think I saw somebody say that there's only been 12 teams in the history of the NBA that have started 11-0 to start a season.
Yeah.
So they're in like rarefied air at this point in terms of how the start that they're off to. And as you know, with the schedule coming up, there's a chance they could win some more of those and maybe extend this thing even further. But we'll talk about that another time. Spence, there was one key thing that we really noted at the end of this game that was super interesting to me. And it was this lineup that Kenny Atkinson trotted out there that he had never used at any point this season, where it featured Darius, Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Karis LeVert, and the sort of wild card in all this was Ty Jerome, of all things.
Yeah.
Smaller lineup. Mobley was your bigger guy, but he was playing the 4 more so than the 5. Or was he?
No, he was playing the 5.
He was playing the 5.
Was playing the 4.
Karis LeVert was playing the 4, which I think he said he had never really done before. So it was an interesting lineup, an interesting wrinkle sort of thrown in by Kenny Atkinson. And on that point, I know you have a ton of stuff to say about that lineup specifically, but I thought it was super fascinating to me that after the game, Kenny was asked like, why that lineup? Like what came to fruition that allowed you to sort of put that out there? What'd you see? And his answer was just like, nothing else is working. So I just wanted to try something different and see if we could get a spark. And I thought about last year, and again, I don't mean this. I don't. I know we talk so much about like the difference between last year and this year, and I don't want this to just become like taking shots at JB Bickerstaff all the time by any means. But I do think like you would have never had JB Bickerstaff say something like that. You would have never had him try something like that either. He was more so a coach that seemed like when things weren't working, he stayed the course. It was like I got here with these guys. I'm going to see it through with these guys. Kenny is trying different things just for the sake of like, let's just see if this thing works because it's tonight. These guys aren't working for us right now, and that's going to happen from time to time. Guys have bad nights. Tonight, Jared Allen had a bad night, but like I thought that was fascinating. Like that was one of those moments where it's like you get a peek inside a coach's brain, right?
Yep.
And seeing inside JB's mind last year versus like Kenny Atkinson's mind this year, and why the premise behind a new coach coming in and just seeing things differently is playing itself out on the floor behind us here into a team that's 11-0. It was so interesting. Like something clicked in my mind when he said that. I was like, man, we wouldn't have heard that from JB Bickerstaff last year. We wouldn't have seen that from JB Bickerstaff last year. Just a really, really cool sort of thing that Kenny sort of let us get a peek behind the curtain.
He's giving you the why. He's kind of telling you, okay, nothing. Let's try something. Let's experiment. It's the regular season.
Yeah.
You're playing. I mean, you literally are at this point of the season. You're playing with house money. You're undefeated at this point. Why not try it? And he told us he thought that maybe the speed of that lineup would really be the determining factor, and that's what happened, right? Like they're kind of able to get a little bit more downhill on the offensive end, and then defensively they were holding up because they still have plenty of switchable defenders out there. And even though the size might not have been great, the Nets were still equally playing almost a 4-guard lineup as well. So he was like, we just got to match it. So he kind of played tick for tack there and wanted to try to do a little bit of something different. And it ended up working. I mean, you can go through each guy that made an impact. But for me, it's Ty Jerome. Ty Jerome was the one who was getting into shirts defensively and really making an impact. He's obviously the table setter on the other end of the floor, but man, can he ever get into the ball when a big is with him. When he has either Evan Mobley or Jared Allen with him, maybe they send with Dean Wade on a double or something like that. That dude's just ripping the ball away right now.
Yeah.
He's legitimately just taking out of people's hands, and it's leading to opportunities on the other end, and that's invaluable of a skill to have. And just kind of the strength and the will to do that. Even cooler for Ty, they're up one. There's like 40 something seconds left, and comes down the floor out of a timeout. I think it was an ATO or his offensive stop. I can't remember. Don't follow me. It's like midnight. But anyways, he brings it up. Donovan Mitchell, you'd think, would get the ball there, but Donovan kind of sets
you
this
pointed
little.
this out. He waved him off.
He didn't. Okay, so like looking back at it, he didn't wave Donovan off, but Donovan kind of said no.
He looked at him and he said, "I'm the captain now." That's what he said. And he took over and scored a bucket.
No, but real talk. I mean, Donovan kind of set this ghost screen thing, but their defenders switched, so Ty ended up getting somebody that he wanted on him. Meanwhile, the shot clock was expiring, so this could have also been the reason for it. But Ty just took that thing with his right hand, right foot floater over the top and nailed it. And that was one of two floaters that were huge in the fourth quarter. I mean, all the credit in the world has to go to Ty Jerome. You look at the box score. If you didn't have plus minus, you'd had no idea that was one of the most impactful players of the entire game. But also, I kind of wanted to speak on that play because Ty specifically brought it up, and you can look at it on our YouTube page. I'm going to keep plugging it. Sorry, guys. Ty was like, there's a lot of superstars out there that would demand the ball in that situation. But in that fourth quarter, in those crunch time moments, Donovan was calling out coverages and calling out sets to say, you know what, get DG the ball. He's getting downhill. He's doing a great job. Bless you.
More of a yawn, which just speaks to how late it is. But yeah,
a yawn sneeze. But DG was doing the work. The way that he kind of shut down that fourth quarter, really beating that full court pressure, getting inside, using the high glass finish, and then finding Evan Mobley for some great inside finishes. He had one where he dunked on Nick Claxton. He's got that nasty in his game right now. Yep. But collectively, that lineup worked to close it out.
Yeah.
And it was big time. But even Kenny said something about Donovan being unselfish in those moments and not demanding the ball. So make sure you go watch that. It was a beautiful clip.
I'll come back to that in a second, but like, yeah, I mean, if you look at if you just look at the box score, you might have not thought that Ty Jerome had like this massively impactful game. He
Yeah.
only had 4 points. He did have 5 assists, 2 steals, but like you said, like the plus minus 16. He was plus 16 tonight, which is just fantastic, and certainly speaks to the performance for him. He was making his impact felt without just having to score the basketball, and he did hit a couple big shots, like you said, late in that game that were massive. Yeah, I mean, can't say enough, and I think like his teammates have waxed poetic about how great he's been as well.
Oh yeah, last two nights especially.
Him being healthy has just been a godsend for this team, for that second unit, but also as we saw tonight in that closing unit, which that lineup we mentioned, I think they took over with like 6:51 to go in the game. They played the entire rest of the game. They closed that thing out for like more than half the quarter.
Yep.
And I mean, it was cool to see. And again, it's cool to see sort of the coach's mind at work, even if it was just like sort of spitballing something. It worked out, and that speaks to how great Kenny's been to this point for this team. You brought up Donovan being unselfish. Like that. That can't be understated enough. I don't know if we've talked about that. We've talked about the team being unselfish. I don't know if we've talked about Donovan being unselfish enough, because, and Kenny alluded to it, like there's a lot of superstars in this league who, like, in those tight moments of games, they press, they feel like it's on them. We know those days, because when LeBron was here, how many times were we saying he made the wrong play? He shouldn't have passed it there. He should have been taking that last shot. Guys put a lot of pressure on themselves. Not to say Donovan can't do that, and not to say Donovan won't do that in a high intense playoff game when the game's on the line and you want your best player to take over. But the fact,
Milwaukee last Saturday is a perfect example.
Right. But when exactly, we saw it a week ago. But like, the fact that he is kind of conceding to some of his teammates and building their confidence, and a guy like Darius Garland has played closer in a bunch of these games, and Evan Mobley's taking over some of these games, like that can't be understated enough. And that honestly like makes it's scarier for other teams in the NBA to know, yeah, they have Donovan Mitchell who can take over a game. And Kenny sort of alluded to this, like, it's great when you have one player and you can win games that way, but he was like, but I don't think you can win like consistently enough just conceding to one guy. Like, that's got to be a scary thought. I mean, I'm not saying they're the Celtics. The Celtics are great and they can hit you from all different directions too. But that's like what you're aiming for, right? Is a team that like they can just beat you with a number of guys that are out there any given moment. I mean, Jason Tatum, I think, is the best player on the Celtics, but Jaylen Brown was the did he win MVP?
Yeah. Well, he was definitely like an award
winner. I think Tatum ended up winning it in the end, but I think there was an argument over like Brown probably should have got it still. I can't remember off the top of my head now. But like, again, like they have so many different guys that can beat you. And I'm not saying the Cavs are the Celtics. I'm not trying to put the bar at that point just yet. But like, they're on their way towards being a team that is similar in that way, where it's like we have so many different guys that are contributing. And that all goes to Donovan Mitchell's willingness to just like be unselfish and let his teammates eat him too.
It's that leadership, man, and I think he's really brought it on the defensive end as well. Just the ball pressure that these guards are putting on ball handlers is insane, and they keep talking about it. It's what we've done the last 2-3 years, because Jared Allen and Evan Mobley are there to protect us, and if not, then you have Isaac Okoro or Dean Wade or Karis LeVert ready to cut off drives. Like, so we're going to get into guys and we're going to make sure that they either make some bad decisions, a bad pass, take a bad shot. That's what it takes. And then that's why you're seeing so many points off of turnovers for this team this year. And, they're kind of able to gamble a little bit more. And, Donovan's been a huge part of that. But for me, I mean, Donovan's the one that's setting the tone in a lot of these games. He's been coming out being a scorer and aggressive in first quarters. After that is seemingly when things kind of change a little bit. So Darius and Donovan seem to get going in the first quarters with the points, and then come closing time, it's still on them, but they got each other's backs.
Yeah,
that's a good thing, and they trust everybody else to do the job. And Evan's one of those. I brought up earlier that Evan's been such a nasty player this year. Just be dunking in guys' faces and stuff like that. So what's so dangerous about Evan, other than him being able to handle the ball and run inverted pick and roll and do all sorts of things, honestly, is that he can also be the roller. He can also play in the pocket. He's able to pass out of those actions too. And you have split actions, you have dribble handoffs. Evan's so valuable in different ways that I don't think we've seen him utilized this way before. And it's still a work in progress. He's still learning how to pass out of double teams. He's still learning how to pass out of the block, finding the right, cutters and whatnot. But it's one of his most valuable assets as a player right now. And I think Kenny Atkinson's really getting the best out of him and finding and unlocking what is in his skill set. That's huge for the Cavs, because if Evan's the best player on this team, and that's not yet, but when he is, that's when they're really championship contending, because he's the one that's kind of driving the car.
I see one of our loyal listeners, Tom S., says that this is the best Cavs analysis on the internet.
Oh, thank you, Tom.
We appreciate you, Tom.
Appreciate you, Tom.
And for being past midnight, I think we did a pretty damn good job tonight.
Yeah, I've been here since 10:45 a.m. Shout out to the Cleveland Charge, by the way, 120-83 victory today.
Can we go 20 more minutes talking about the Cleveland Charge?
We're not going to do that, but 120-83. They win their home opener and season opener, by the way. Luke Travers, amazing game, 24, 10, 6, 5, and 1 in his first game. Just quick note on Luke Travers, way too good for the G League. He could definitely crack the rotation with the Cavs right now, but obviously a lot of guys in his way, a lot of guys playing very well right now. But make sure to check that out on our YouTube page, because we got video of Luke Travers reacting to that, and also Charge head coach Chris Darnell, first career head coaching win for him. So congratulations.
Right, you can find more content like that, as Spence said, more content like this, including our podcast, the Courtside with the Cavaliers on SI podcast. You can also find all those post-game conversations, Kenny Atkinson, Darius, Garland, Evan Mobley, the guys in the locker room that Spence had a chance to talk to as well, all at the Cleveland Cavaliers on SI YouTube channel, and some written content as well from tonight. I actually have a story probably going to go up tomorrow morning at this point, because it's a little late. I don't know if I'm going to get enough people.
Tell them to stay up till 4 a.m. to do it for you guys.
You can read it tomorrow morning, just about what was kind of said about the streak and how much they're thinking about it during the game. But that'll be up at si.com/NBA/Cavaliers. We appreciate you, as always, staying up late with us, waiting for us, jumping on in for this conversation. Spence and I really enjoyed doing this every single time and breaking it down. And it was nice because I wasn't here in person last night for the Warriors game, which I was a little bit bummed about because I knew that was a big matchup. I actually feel like I got the better end of the deal in this, because tonight's game was better. It was more exciting. And the Cavs still came out on top to continue that streak. We'll see if they can keep it going as they head to Chicago for a week on the road. And we'll see if they can, how many more wins they have in them here to start the season. But the Cavaliers win it 105-100 tonight, 11-0 to start the season, as their incredible historic win streak to start the year continues. Appreciate you guys as always. For Spencer Davies, I'm Spencer German. We'll talk to you guys very, very soon. Get some sleep. And keep on following along with the Cleveland Cavaliers on SI.